Every great change that has ever happened in the world started as nothing more than an idea. Nations were born out of ideas, companies that changed the world began as simple thoughts, and movements that shifted the course of history came from a vision in the mind of one person. But if there is one truth that too many people miss, it is this: ideas by themselves do not change the world. They do not create wealth, they do not solve problems, they do not feed families, and they do not transform communities. What changes the world, what produces wealth, what creates legacies is not the idea itself, but the implementation of the idea. Inspiration without execution is simply entertainment for the mind. Implementation is the bridge that carries an idea from the invisible world of thought into the visible world of impact and wealth. You see, everybody has ideas. If you talk to people on the street, in coffee shops, at family gatherings, you will hear so many phrases that begin with, "You know what would be a good idea," or "One day I'm going to eat." Almost everyone is filled with inspiration at some level, but very few people are filled with implementation. That is why so many die with dreams still inside of them, while others take a single idea and build empires, industries, and generations of wealth. It is not that the wealthy are smarter than everyone else. It is not that they are luckier. It is that they understand the law of implementation. The idea is just the seed, but only when you plant it, water it, nurture it, and protect it does it have the power to grow into a tree that produces fruit for years to come. If you hold a seed in your hand and stare at it, you can imagine a forest. You can talk about the shade it will give, the fruit it will bear, the wood it will produce. You can inspire others with your vision of a forest. But until you place that seed in the soil, nothing happens. The seed will not turn itself into a forest by wishful thinking or good intentions. The same is true for your ideas. Inspiration is important because it awakens the vision, but implementation is necessary because it manifests the vision. One of the greatest deceptions that people live under is the belief that they are waiting for the perfect time. They think, one day when I have more money, I will start. One day when I have more connections, I will build. One day when I feel ready, I will launch. But here is the truth. You will never feel fully ready, and the perfect time will never come. Implementation does not wait for perfect conditions. Farmers do not wait for a perfect sky to plant seeds. They plant because they understand that harvests come to those who sow. The same principle applies in wealth creation. The people who create millions from their ideas are those who take action even when they feel unsure, even when the conditions are not perfect, even when others doubt them. They trust the process of planting and nurturing the idea through consistent implementation. Think about every great invention that has changed the way we live. The light bulb was once just an idea. The automobile was once just an idea. The internet was once just an idea. If Thomas Edison had sat around simply being inspired by the thought of light without continuing to experiment thousands of times, we would still be living in darkness. If Henry Ford had just been inspired by the concept of automobiles but never created systems for mass production, the average person would still be riding horses. If visionaries in technology had never implemented their crazy ideas, we would not be holding powerful computers in our pockets today. Inspiration lit the spark, but implementation built the fire. Now here's the challenge. Implementation requires discipline, consistency, and the courage to fail. That is why so few people do it. Ideas feel good. They give you a sense of hope. They allow you to dream. But implementation makes you confront reality. When you start implementing, you discover that your idea requires resources. You realize you need to solve problems you didn't anticipate. You face criticism and doubt, not just from others, but also from within yourself. Implementation feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is the very furnace where wealth is forged. Every millionaire you admire has endured the friction of taking an idea and forcing it into reality. The difference between those who make millions from ideas and those who only talk about ideas is not the size of their dream, but the size of their determination. Implementation is about doing the work day after day. It is about building systems, learning skills, surrounding yourself with the right people, and most importantly, taking action when others only talk. Wealth is not the result of having the best idea. Wealth is the result of taking the idea you have and implementing it better, faster, and with more persistence than anyone else. Consider this: the marketplace does not reward people for having the first idea. It rewards people for being the first to execute the idea effectively. How many people thought of creating a social network before Facebook? Many. But Facebook implemented with speed, simplicity, and strategy. How many people thought about online shopping before Amazon? Many. But Jeff Bezos implemented with consistency, reinvested profits, and built infrastructure no one else had the patience to build. Ideas were everywhere, but implementation turned those ideas into billions. You must begin to see your ideas as raw materials, like uncut diamonds. Inspiration gives you the diamond in its rough form, but rough diamonds do not sell for millions. They must be cut, polished, and shaped through labor, skill, and refinement. Implementation is the cutting process. It is where the raw stone of your idea is crafted into a jewel that others will pay for. Without that process, your idea is just another rock in the ground. Another truth about implementation is that it requires courage to step into the unknown. Every time you implement, you are stepping into a space where results are not guaranteed. That is why most people prefer to stay in the safety of inspiration, because dreaming feels safe. Talking about what you could do feels comforting. But millionaires are made when you leave the comfort of dreaming and enter the risk of doing. Yes, you may fail. Yes, it may take longer than you expect. Yes, you will make mistakes. But every failure refines the idea, every mistake teaches you, and every setback strengthens your ability to execute. Inspiration will excite you, but implementation will grow you. Now understand this: implementation is not just about working hard, it is about working strategically. Millions are not created by doing random actions. Millions are created by implementing a clear plan with consistency. When you decide to act on an idea, you must turn it into a structured strategy. What problem does this idea solve? Who benefits from it? How can it be delivered in a way that adds value? How can it be scaled so that it impacts more people? Implementation is not about perfection, it is about progress. Step by step, you refine, improve, and expand until the idea begins to multiply. There is also a spiritual truth here. Faith without works is dead. Belief gives birth to the vision, but action gives birth to results. You cannot pray for wealth and sit still waiting for it to drop from the sky. You must put your hands to work. You must implement with faith, trusting that if you are consistent and obedient to the process, the idea will bear fruit in time. Just as a farmer plants seeds in faith that rain will come, you must implement with faith that your actions will produce a harvest. Let me ask you this: how many ideas have you had in your lifetime that you never acted on? How many times have you felt inspired, motivated, or even certain that you had discovered something powerful, but days, weeks, months, or even years later you realized you never implemented it? What happened to those ideas? They faded, they slipped into the graveyard of forgotten dreams. But imagine if you had acted. Imagine if you had taken that idea, even in its imperfect form, and implemented one step at a time. Where would you be today? How much wealth would you have created? How many lives would you have impacted? Implementation is not just about creating millions for yourself. It is about multiplying your impact for others. The world is full of people who are inspired but broke, motivated but stagnant, creative but unproductive. That is because inspiration without implementation is like potential energy never released. It sits there, full of possibility, but it never moves, never transforms, never produces. Implementation is the release of that energy into motion, into action, into momentum. And momentum is what creates wealth. A small step taken consistently builds speed. Speed creates results. Results attract opportunities. Opportunities multiply wealth. And it all begins not with the idea itself, but with the courage to implement the idea. Start with what you have, where you are, and take the first step. Once you implement, doors will begin to open, resources will begin to appear, people will be drawn to your vision because they see it in motion. Momentum will carry you further than you imagined. And one day, you will look back and realize that the millions you created were not the result of a magical idea, but of your decision to implement faithfully, consistently, and courageously. Ideas become wealth through implementation, not just inspiration. Inspiration may spark the fire, but implementation keeps it burning until it lights up the world. If you want millions, do not just dream, do not just plan, do not just talk, act, implement, build, and the wealth you seek will not be a matter of chance, but a matter of choice.
Every person dreams of achieving financial freedom. Every person imagines what it would be like to live without limitations, to have choices instead of restrictions, to provide for their families at the highest level, and to leave something behind that lasts beyond their lifetime. But the truth is, most people chase money instead of creating value. They run after wealth as if it is hiding somewhere outside of them, as if it is an object to be captured rather than a result to be produced. The reality is this: money is not chased, it is attracted. And it is not attracted by wishing, by hoping, or even by working harder than everyone else. It is attracted by value. If you want to create millions, you must understand that value creation is the pathway. Money is nothing more than a certificate of appreciation that the marketplace gives you in exchange for solving problems. Every dollar you earn is proof that you have delivered value to someone. If you want to increase your income, you must increase the value you deliver. It is as simple and as profound as that. Too many people spend their lives asking, how can I make more money? When the real question should be, how can I create more value? Because when you create more value, money has no choice but to follow. Think about it. Every wealthy person you know, every millionaire you admire, became wealthy not just because they wanted money, but because they created something of value that people were willing to exchange their money for. Steve Jobs created technology that changed how people connect, communicate, and create. Elon Musk is building transportation and energy solutions that shape the future. Oprah created platforms of inspiration and empowerment that touched millions of lives. The millions did not come because they were chasing money. The millions came because they were creating value, and money chased them. Value is not determined by how hard you work. If that were the case, the hardest workers in the world would be the wealthiest people in the world. But many of them are struggling financially. Why? Because wealth is not a reflection of effort alone. It is a reflection of value. A doctor can work fewer hours than a construction worker and make 10 times the income. Not because they are better people, but because their specialized knowledge creates more value in the marketplace. A business consultant can spend 1 hour solving a problem for a company and be paid what another person earns in a week. Why? Because the value they bring in that hour has the potential to generate millions for the business. So if you want to step into the pathway of millions, you must stop asking, how can I work harder? And start asking, how can I increase the value of what I do? The greater the value you provide, the greater the reward you receive. The marketplace does not pay for effort, it pays for results, and results are simply the visible evidence of the value you created. Now here's the challenge. Many people underestimate the value they can create. They think they have to invent something completely new, something the world has never seen before, in order to create millions. But that is not true. You do not have to invent value. You only have to identify value and deliver it in a way that impacts people. A teacher who takes complicated concepts and makes them simple is creating value. A business owner who helps customers save time, energy, or stress is creating value. A leader who inspires people to believe in themselves and achieve more than they thought possible is creating value. And value always attracts reward. The reason value creation is so powerful is because it aligns with one of the greatest laws of life, the law of sowing and reaping. When you sow value into the lives of others, you reap value in return. It may not always come back immediately, and it may not always come back from the same people, but it always comes back multiplied. Millions are not created by taking from people. Millions are created by giving to people in ways that enrich their lives, and as a result, they willingly exchange their resources to receive that value. This is why character and mindset are so important in the journey of wealth. If you are focused only on getting, you will always come across as desperate, and desperation repels. But if you focus on giving, on serving, on providing value, you will naturally attract opportunities, partnerships, and financial rewards. Money flows in the direction of value. So instead of asking how you can get more money out of people, start asking how you can put more value into people. Think about your own life. Every product you've ever bought, every service you've ever paid for, was because you believed it carried value for you. You paid for it because you believed it would improve your life in some way. People do not buy products. They buy solutions. They buy feelings. They buy transformations. They buy outcomes. And when your idea, your service, your gift, or your business provides that outcome at a high level, you step onto the pathway of millions. Now let's go deeper. Value creation requires understanding people. You cannot create value in a vacuum. You must ask yourself, what do people need? What problems are they facing? What dreams are they chasing? What frustrations are holding them back? When you understand these things, you can position your idea or service as the answer. The person who solves the problem at the highest level will always receive the greatest reward. That is why consultants, coaches, entrepreneurs, and innovators who specialize in solving painful problems are often rewarded with millions. But here's the key. Value must be scalable. If you create value for one person, you may earn a little. If you create value for thousands or millions, you can earn millions. That is why technology companies grow so quickly, because they create value that can be delivered to masses of people at once. That is why authors, speakers, and content creators can build empires, because their words, once captured and distributed, create value for millions simultaneously. The scale of your value determines the scale of your wealth. Do not make the mistake of thinking that value is just about products or services. Sometimes the greatest value you create is through your presence, your leadership, or your perspective. A mentor who helps one person shift their mindset can change the trajectory of an entire family line. A leader who inspires a team can cause ripple effects that multiply across industries. Never underestimate the power of the value you bring, even if it seems small at first. What is small in your eyes may be monumental in the eyes of someone whose life was changed because you showed up with your value. The pathway to millions, then, is not mysterious. It is not about chasing quick schemes or shortcuts. It is about becoming a person who is obsessed with value creation. Every day you wake up asking, how can I make someone's life better today? How can I save them time, energy, or money? How can I inspire them, equip them, or empower them? And then you align your skills, your gifts, your resources, and your actions toward delivering that value at the highest level possible. When you live this way, wealth becomes inevitable. And here's the beautiful truth. Value creation not only leads to millions, it leads to fulfillment. Because when your wealth is tied to value, you do not feel like you are taking from others. You feel like you are serving others. You know that every dollar you receive is evidence that you helped someone, that you solved something, that you made life better for another human being. This is why people who create wealth through value creation sleep at night with peace. They are not haunted by greed because their wealth is rooted in contribution. So the question is not whether you can create millions. The question is, are you willing to create value at the level that millions require? Are you willing to study your craft, master your skills, and understand people so deeply that you know how to serve them in a way few others can? Are you willing to put aside selfishness and become obsessed with contribution? If you are, then the pathway to millions is already open to you. Every idea you have carries potential value. Every skill you possess carries potential value. Every experience you've lived carries potential value. The key is to ask, how can I package this value in a way that helps others? How can I deliver it in a way that is accessible and impactful? How can I multiply it so it reaches more people? That is where millions are born. Think of it like this. If you help one person solve a problem and they are willing to pay you $100, you have created value worth $100. If you help 10 people, you have 1,000. If you help 1,000 people, you have 100,000. If you help 10,000 people, you have 1 million. The pathway to millions is simply the multiplication of value delivered. If you truly want to step into wealth, you must become intentional about value. You must train your mind to see opportunities to serve. You must discipline yourself to always ask, is this action creating value for others? Is this product making life better? Is this idea solving a real problem? If the answer is yes, you are walking on the right path. If the answer is no, you must adjust. Because wealth flows to value, and if there is no value, there will be no wealth. At the end of the day, money is a tool, it is a servant, but value is the master key. Value creation is what unlocks wealth, unlocks influence, and unlocks legacy. When you commit your life to creating value, you do not have to worry about chasing money. Money will chase you, opportunities will find you, people will recommend you, doors will open for you. Why? Because the world is always hungry for value, and those who feed the world with value will never lack. Value creation is not just the pathway to millions, it is the pathway to meaning. Because true wealth is not just counted in dollars, it is counted in lives changed. When you create value, you are writing a story that will outlast you. And that story, that legacy, is worth more than any number of millions you could ever accumulate. So the secret is simple yet profound. Do not chase money, create value. Do it with excellence, do it with consistency, do it with faith. And the millions will follow, not as an accident, but as a natural result of the value you bring into the world.